Okay, hello everybody. This is Anthony Stewart. Our channel is Food for Thought, and we are questioning everything they've ever said. Whenever they say something, who's they? Why are they saying it? And what I'm trying to do is give you some opinions and some thoughts to maybe take some power back and come to your own conclusions and your own decisions, basically with the right way of choosing for yourself that's not confused by everything they say, if that made any sense. Anyway, hope everybody's having a good day. The summer's rolling along, and just for the record, I am still on the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And just an update for my weight is 175 again. So I've been eating a lot, been eating not as much, specifically beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. My weight is staying exactly the same, which is fascinating. And I believe I'm getting more vascular. So that would indicate some body fat percentage loss with no strength loss or muscular or bone density loss. So that's good. That's great. And today, these things pop up into my brain quite a bit. And, from the health and nutrition space, I wanted to talk today about fat. Now, we all know cholesterol is one of those iffy subjects where everybody can be either scared of it. It's very debatable. I personally am in the belief that cholesterol is vital for human life. And if we don't get it from our diet, our body recycles and makes it. So 80% of your cholesterol is actually made by you, and it's recycled. So is it important? I would argue very much so. And taking a drug just to lower one aspect of your cholesterol might not be the best idea. But once again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I am just a guy that is studying nutrition and has become an N of one, an experiment on myself over the last few years. And we're trying to get to some answers. Now, today, I wanted to talk about fat. Now, we've talked about this before on my channel, but fat, I am fairly convinced that it's not only an essential nutrient, we just have to look to fat-soluble vitamins, essential fatty acids, and understand that there is nutrition in fat. Now, what I wanted to talk today about was maybe you don't understand the difference between saturated fat, a monounsaturated fat, and a polyunsaturated fat. And we're going to get into some details, and specifically trans fat, what it is. So we'll start with saturated fat. Saturated fat is structurally sound on its carbon chain. A monounsaturated fat has one mono carbon double bond, which that means that carbon can be oxidized and it's not stable. All you have to look to understand this is fat that's solid at room temperature gets hard. Interesting. Fat that's not solid at room temperature would be a mono or polyunsaturated fat. Now, a polyunsaturated fat, its structure has two or more carbon double bonds, which are prone to oxidation. So right there saying all the arguments on saturated fat being bad, from an oxidized stability standpoint, it's fair enough to say polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat to a less degree are prone to oxidation, which would mean they could be rancid faster. So now, mono from olives, think about this. All the vegetable oils and all the seed oils that you get have been highly refined, highly processed, using chemicals and extraction methods and craziness to get that product. Now, olives, you squeeze them. Avocados, you squeeze it. Coconut, you squeeze it. Although coconut oil is more of a saturated fat, hence why when you buy coconut oil, it gets hard when it's room temperature. It's hard. When it gets hot outside, it goes into liquid. Same thing why butter can be kept in the cupboard. It stays hard at room temperature. Look at the fat from animals. Bacon grease doesn't get rancid. It stays stable at room temperature for X amount of time. And that's what you can look at as far as structurally sound fat. Okay, that's just basic stuff. Now, how much saturated fat you should be eating, sure, there's a debate there. But what I want you to realize is the polyunsaturated fat in the health food space generally are known to lower your LDL cholesterol. One function. Where's the nutrition? Doesn't bring along fat soluble vitamins. There might be trace amounts of things, but during the hydrogenation process, during the refinement, during the chemical extraction, most of the nutrient is lost. So would you rather be eating natural fat found in nature, or this man-made, highly commercial, highly financial, highly corporate driven stuff that they're telling you is better for you? That's up to you. Now, trans fat is when the polyunsaturated fat has a double bond on a carbon double bond, which means it's a little bent. When you heat up polyunsaturated fat, that carbon molecule flips and it goes from a cis fat to a trans fat. That's what that means. So when you heat these things up, they flip into trans fat. So here's my point. They've outlawed trans fat for the most part, but within a certain parameter and within a certain amount, they don't have to tell you that it's in there. Any processed vegetable oil that's been preheated or used in manufacturing will have trans fat in it. Yes, they can't push it, but they're there. There's even some trans fat and some animal fats. Like it's a natural occurring thing at a minor level that the severity of it probably in small amounts, I would say probably isn't that problematic. But what happens when you go out to a restaurant and you're eating deep fried vegetable oil, that instantly is converting to trans fat. So there's no way of knowing how much trans fat you're actually getting. And trans fat causes lipid confusion in your body. So your fat cells now are confused and oxidized and a whole cascade of problems. So when you're eating these vegetable oils, they go rancid in light. They go rancid when you heat them up and reuse them. If you're cooking it beyond the smoke point, which they tell you what it is, but is that really, do you trust it? I would argue not. So are you consuming a bunch of trans fats without even realizing it? That's the scary part about vegetable oils. Saturated fat, because of the no weakness, the double bond, the carbon double bond, there is none of them. There's no double bonds. They're structurally sound. Doesn't change over from cis to trans fat. So that is the argument on why, whether you agree or disagree, saturated fat is good for you. I would argue to say that most vegetable oils, specifically when you consume them poorly or badly, we don't know how long they've been on the shelf. We don't know how much light's been exposed to them. We don't know what chemical processes are involved. And they just have to prove that it's not dangerous in the short term. But long term, this could be accumulating and causing your fat cells to be misfiring and confused and functioning badly. So that's what basically it comes down to, is your choice to eat natural or unnatural, man-made stuff that is financially driven and in the name of health, for one aspect, lowering your LDL cholesterol, which may not even matter in your context. Or if you're scared of saturated fat, maybe cutting it out a little bit, but eating the good stuff. Lard, beef tallow, coconut oil, saturated fat, butter, ghee. These things are healthy. And you just have to look at nature, look at science, and look at history. What is Crisco? Crisco was a product that was a runoff of the cotton production, Procter and Gamble realized that when you heat this up and you hydrogenate it, it looks like lard. And they thought, hey, if we cook with this, we convince everybody to use this instead of lard. It saves the labor in the kitchen. Nobody's churning butter. They didn't test how it was going to affect our metabolism, our health long term. And now this whole mess about polyunsaturated fat, it gets tricky because where is this coming from? You can read a book. It's called The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz. Fantastic. It lays down the history of how we became fat phobic. And remember, fat is an essential vital nutrient. You need it. Wouldn't you be wanting to get it from the best source possible? And that's up to you. And my job here is to just give you some power. I want you to think about these things because I just don't want to say this or that. Now, you can make a choice. You know, you like the flavor of certain oils. Just remember, they're probably not pure. There's even a research project going on about olive oil and how olive oil, 80% of the olive oils out there might even be fake. So you got to do your due diligence and think about it rationally. Is saturated fat bad? Possible. But I would argue that the fat from nature is better than this man-made, hyper-processed, financially driven, in your benefit, the healthier choice is not. That's all I'm going to say today, guys. I'm going to keep it short. Please stay strong, and I urge you. The truth is out there. We just got to look for it. Maybe turn some rocks along the way. Stay strong.